Welcome to session 2. In the first part of the session, we'll look at what knowing a word means in terms of receptive and productive knowledge of vocabulary. Let's look at some of the ideas from research, but before doing that, let me thank you for doing the survey and let me remind you the importance of looking at other colleagues' answers to the survey. Please don't forget to check that. Okay, let's continue now. In this part, we are going to summarize information from literature review. Here, we will share with you quotations from Milton, Thornbury, Nation, Crow, and Waring. Let's start with Milton. Milton in 2009 confirmed what previous research said about the topic. He said it is useful to understand receptive and productive vocabulary knowledge in learning English. Thornbury also focuses on receptive and productive knowledge and says receptive knowledge is larger and usually comes before it. If we continue with Nation, we can see that he differentiated between receptive knowledge and use and productive knowledge and use. In terms of receptive knowledge and use, what he said is the ability to recognize the word in spoken and written form, the ability to recognize what other words occur or are present with it, and the knowledge of expecting where, when, and how often we can meet this word. In terms of productive knowledge and use, he means being able to pronounce the word, spelling it, and knowing where, when, and how often it can be used. Let's look at the previous or earlier research and what they said. For example, Crow in 1986 mentions the differences between the two. He said that productive use requires better knowledge and ability to know the collocations, connotations, register, or other restrictions on the use of a word. And this session aims to focus on these aspects that need to be mastered for productive use of vocabulary, but we will come back to that again. At this point, we can't miss Waring's additions to this difference. Waring's studies in 1996 showed that receptive knowledge of a high-frequency word would lead to productive knowledge with a good chance, that is 64%. Yet, the receptive knowledge of a low-frequency word doesn't often lead to productive use. There is only 15% chance that it will be known productively. This means that we know far more words receptively than productively, and productive word knowledge is more difficult to learn and more easily forgotten. In summary, many studies mentioned the following differences. First, productive learning is more difficult than receptive learning because there are more differences like different sounds, pronunciations, spelling, and the writing systems. Of course, as well as usage differences. However, although total vocabulary size is affected by both receptive and productive learning, most EFL language coursebooks pay more attention to receptive learning. The question here is, how can learners master their productive knowledge? Another consideration is, productive recall is more difficult than receptive knowledge because the new items have many different associations in their mother tongue. So here, our question is, how can learners master language if they are only taught form and meanings? How about collocations, connotations, and register. All this summary of research shows that the course books mainly focus on receptive knowledge. It is therefore both the teachers and the learner's responsibility to turn receptive knowledge into productive use of vocabulary knowledge. Due to the differences and difficulties mentioned above, different kinds of exposure to the vocabulary is needed for productive learning. So I'd like to emphasize this again. Different kinds of exposure to the vocabulary is needed for productive learning and use. Now, we will continue with the next part of this input. Please follow the arrows on the course platform. Thank you.